Hi, Brian. Is this a full committee or subcommittee meeting?
Good question.
Folks, we're waiting on a quorum. Just give us a few minutes, if you will. All right, we're going to come to order. We've got a quorum now, and I'm going to bring to order the full committee of Judicial Non-Civil. Thank you for coming in on a committee day. I'm going to say a word of blessing before you proceed. Please bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the blessings you bestowed upon us. Lord, I pray you just give us the wisdom and guidance necessary to do the best work we can do for the state of Georgia. I ask all this in your heavenly Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
We've got 2 bills on the calendar. I'm not sure we're going to get to House Bill 1433 based on the author being in another committee to a public safety committee. So if she can get here, then we're going to do both of them, but we're going to start with House Bill 906 with Chairman Nix. I don't have anybody signed up. Is anybody interested in speaking to the bill or against the bill? Okay. If it arises during the testimony, just let me know. Chairman Nix, I appreciate you coming in. Will you present your bill and give us the LC you're reading from so we all know we're on the same page?
I'm working off of LC 480536S. That's the last iteration we did.
Thanks, this one.
That's not it?
Yes, sir. This includes the language that was amended in subcommittee.
I thought I had the right one. So that's the one I was looking at. Okay. Sorry about that.
I think this includes the language from
This
sub.
includes the language. It's got the word tendency in there that I had to learn what it meant. So this is the right one. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you. I appreciate y'all hearing this, and we've gone through it very thoroughly, I think, and I want to thank the members of the committee that have worked to help me perfect the bill. Essentially what this does, it will allow our law enforcement people to be able to confiscate these four-wheelers and the dirt bikes, off-road vehicles that a number of people use in very dangerous ways, both in traffic and off the road. The example I used is my grandson was playing baseball, and several of these characters got out there on those big dirt bikes and were running up and down the sidewalks that run through the park with kids on both sides, doing wheelies, just all kind of stuff. The people on the subcommittee know that Chief Deckmar from LaGrange came. He was the one that asked me to bring this. We've worked very hard to try to get it. We're trying to put some kind of teeth in it where it gets these people's attention. And as we have the bill now, this would be, a person would have to be arrested, charged with, and convicted of a violation of either reckless driving or recklessly operating a vehicle or fleeing and attempt to elude for this for the forfeiture to come into play. If that did, it would follow the procedures in Chapter 16 of Title IX for forfeiture. And I think it's a good bill, something that we can give to our law enforcement people, and hopefully they'll have an opportunity to get some of these people. They're very difficult to catch, and when they catch them, they need to be able to do something that'll get their attention, and hopefully this will do that. And I appreciate the committee's help on trying to put it all together.
Thank you, Chairman Nix. I just want to add, from what I recall, this is a fairly narrow scope, and they have to be convicted of 40-6.395 and 397. Can you tell us what those those crimes are?
I looked them all up. One of them is reckless driving, attempting to elude.
Attempting to elude and reckless driving is from what I recall,
Yeah.
Chairman Nix. And the other provision within this statute that is different than our standard asset forfeiture is that the proceedings of the asset forfeiture are stayed or they can't be started until after the conviction. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
Very good. I want to ask Chairman Smith to give us a report of the subcommittee, and then I will ask 4 questions. Chairman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Nix, for bringing this bill. He was thoroughly vetted and came out of the fire of the Judiciary Non-Civil Subcommittee process, and our recommendation was that this bill do pass.
Thank you. I've got one flashing light from my friend, Representative McLaurin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and friend. We'll just first clarify that my fire was not part of that blaze in the subcommittee. So I'm happy to get an opportunity to dig in now. Mr. Chairman, I like the idea of tailoring the bill, wondering if it's all the way tailored. One concern I have is if granted, I haven't tried to elude police officers in my vehicle recently, but assuming that I'm in my car and I'm charged and convicted of that in a regular car, there's no forfeiture proceeding for that, right?
This is an off-road vehicle.
Exactly. And so I guess my point and my question is, it seems like the policy problem you've identified for the committee is reckless use of these off-road vehicles in terms of driving off the road in a way that's not intended, right? Or putting people in danger, like you say, on the sidewalks, that sort of thing. Would it be more appropriate to tailor the forfeiture provision, if that's what we're going to do, which I actually don't really have an objection to if it's, off-road driving in a kind of a crazy way, but wouldn't it be more appropriate to tailor it to the conviction of a crime that necessarily involves that sort of specific dangerous driving, like aggressive driving, for example, which I know is one of the two? I'm concerned that the elude provision being in there separates this, makes this different from the way normal automobiles would be treated, to my point earlier, in a way that's not tied to the policy concern you have, which is the way in which they're being driven, if that makes sense.
Well, and here again, I'm not an attorney. I've asked for help, but the elude thing is whenever law enforcement shows up, these guys go out the back end about 80 miles an hour. They don't care who's around or what they're running over through yards, backyards and everything else. So that to me is the eluding part, which is dangerous or more dangerous than the other part.
So let me ask you a question, which I think I know the answer to, but I just want to float it to you just in case. My preference would be, if it were up to me, to take out the elude code section, the conviction of that, right? And just put in language that says convicted of any offense relating to a situation in which the driver is shown to have driven the off-road vehicle not on marked roads or in an inappropriate way, sort of off-road, if that makes sense, right? Because the idea would be, let's say I'm just driving it perfectly legally, but I make the, bad mistake of trying to outrun an officer for, 10 seconds and I get convicted of that. In that scenario, I wouldn't be driving in the way that's dangerous to the kids on the sidewalk, right? It would be sort of a separate factual set of circumstances. And so I guess, because again, I'm not opposed to the idea of forfeiture as a response to some of these problems you're identifying. I just would like to make sure that we're narrowing the case in which we use forfeiture only to those circumstances where that problem you're talking about is implicated, which is this like off-road driving and endangering pedestrians and buildings, that sort of thing, property that's located off the road, right?
Representative, I would say that we have narrowed this down about as much as we can. We had at least two long hearings when we went through all of this. The learned attorneys that have touched this have felt this is effective. And unless they would tell me differently, I would stay with what we've got.
Understood. And, sometimes being a learned attorney, you just show up one hearing too late and it's all baked. You know what I mean? So, but I appreciate it. And I think in general, I get where you're coming from. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative McLaurin, this extends not just to off-road. The police chief that came in and testified in sub was showing videos of these folks on the road, and essentially what they're trying to get, this is a problem that's not necessarily in my district, but what they're having is these I think I even mentioned it in sub, was where you have large groups of people on these little motorbikes and four-wheelers doing wheelies. And I can certainly see the public safety issue there, but I understand your point as well. So I just wanted to make the distinction there. Also wanted to say, I think I said, I want to clarify that it is aggressive driving and attempting to elude. I think I said something else earlier. Chairman Smith, I'll go right back to you.
I just want to clarify for my friend, Mr. McLaurin, we didn't bake this, we fried it in peanut oil. And that refined it very well. So I just want to clarify on that. Thank you.
Representative Corn.
And in response to the subcommittee chairman, I'll ask the same question Madam Chair Cooper asked from the floor the other day, which is, where are you from? But nobody really knows the answer to that. So, no, and Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that clarification. I think to my point, I'm okay with the aggressive driving hook being in there. For me, it's the elude officer hook, because that doesn't necessarily imply, I mean, look, I guess you could say anytime you're trying to outrun an officer, that's a little aggressive. I mean, I get that.
Oh, yeah, so that's what I was going to chime
But,
in.
yeah.
In committee, what he was showing was a video where someone eluded, dumped the bike, and just ran. And in fact, two of them were eluding, and one of the guys dumped and ran. The other guys dumped and was hung under the bike. So I mean,
So there's a safety concern too,
yeah, in the spirit
associated
of the,
with
yeah,
this
in the
type of
spirit of the
vehicle.
bill, that's what it was for. There's a public safety concern. In fact, I think most police officers and law enforcement will tell you they do not, and the chief even said they do not pursue, because they don't want to escalate this into a more dangerous situation where the bike is running through a yard and going through a house or something like that.
Well, contrary to popular belief, I'm happy to lose a debate every now and then. So I just wanted to make sure the question was asked, Mr. Chairman. So appreciate you explaining.
You are a graceful loser.
And if I might add to what the chairman said too, in the video he had, if you remember, one of them, the guy kind of wrecked the bike, left the bike in the middle of the road. His friend stopped, he jumped on with him, and they went off on the same bike with the wrecked bike or laying in the middle of the road. So I know that Chief Deckmar is a stickler for detail. He does not allow pursuits that turn out to be reckless. I called him when this was happening at the baseball field. He said, we'll come over there, but most likely there's not gonna be a whole lot gonna dig us. As soon as they see us coming, they'll go out the back way. They've got 10 different ways to go, and we can't catch them, but at least we've got it on record of what was going on. So
We've got a question online. Representative Burr is asking, is this widespread or only certain areas? I think I know that it is happening in Chairman Nix's.
this is specifically Troop County, but GMA is very supportive because they're having it in many other
I
areas.
think it's happening elsewhere, but also I think that I don't think that they can avail themselves of the civil asset forfeiture with local legislation. I don't believe that's a possibility, but I'll defer to somebody on the committee if they do know that. Does that answer your question? Yes. Chairman Smith.
And just for clarification on that, I brought up the situation to Representative Nix on this bill. You have a lot of members of the cartel that will use ATVs up and down rural country roads to try to circumvent any law enforcement monitoring them on our paved roads. And so I saw this as an additional tool in our fight against them and trying to make sure that we get drugs off the street. So I just wanted to throw that in. Hopefully that will help my good friend Representative Byrd on this as well.
Thank you, Chairman Smith. No one signed up. No more questions. Any more questions for the author? If there are no more questions, then I might entertain a motion.
Move to pass.
Move to pass in a second. Is there any discussion on the bill? If there's no further discussion or amendments, all those in favor of passage of House Bill 906 LC 480561 S by committee substitute signify by saying aye.
James, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. It's opinion of the chair that the measure passes on the rules. Thank you, Chairman Nix.
And let me thank again this committee. As I told y'all, this is not an area I have any expertise in, and y'all have been extremely helpful. And hopefully we've got something here that our law enforcement will be able to use, in a way that will make our streets safer and our ballparks safer too. So thank you.
Do you know if still presenting? So what we're going to do is we put out a notice for tomorrow, an 8 a.m. Subcommittee. We're considering just turning it into a full committee meeting so we can hear Ballinger's bill and perhaps another bill in the morning. I'm going to try and see if I can circle up with Chairman Ballinger and figure out if she can do that in the morning. If she can, then I'll put out a notice to all the parties to let them know what we are going to hear in the morning and if it is going to be a full meeting. And I know one person in here is super happy about an 8 a.m. meeting, and that is Jill Travis from Gatco. She loves early morning meetings. Is that okay with you? I got a question from online. Representative Kendrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you know if that's going to be the only bill on the calendar, or are you going to add more? Do you know?
We've got two other bills that we're considering to put on full committee, but I wasn't prepared to do it first thing in the morning. I don't have an answer for you at this moment, but as soon as I get an answer, I'll put it out to everyone. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we're going to adjourn. I appreciate you. Make sure to get out to the House and Senate kickball game at 5 o'clock at the old Brave Stadium. I think Josh McLaurin will be wearing, Representative McLaurin will be wearing a pair of shorts and playing kickball. So I appreciate you guys coming in, and we'll adjourn the meeting.